Hi everybody, welcome back to GeezeRider. The geezer here is a little fired up right now in regard to manufacturers and vendors, and I'm about to tell you why. So if you've been watching the channel for a little while and looked at some of our other videos, you know we try and stay fairly positive and pretty neutral and give you all the facts. And I've thought about posting this video for a while now, relating some of the experiences I've had while I've been letting the vendors have time to respond or not respond in some instances, and just determined it would be a disservice not to share some of my findings with you. So the unfortunate fact is, even in this day and age, crowdsourcing is one thing. Using a consumer public as your beta testers is inexcusable. And I've got a couple specific instances where that's going on, and I am going to name names. And you vendors, if you have an issue with that, you can look at my videos and feel free to dispute my findings and tell me where I went wrong and how your product works and how I can make it work for myself, and we would all be very happy. And I'll put out a follow-up video about that and how you were right and I was wrong, but I doubt very much that's going to happen. So what's got me so animated right now, where we're normally pretty much, level playing field? Obviously, if you're subscribed to the channel, you've been looking at the comments, you know that we had a issue coming out for the DJI Osmo Action, which has been suffered delay after delay. It'll probably be another week, maybe even two, before that gets out there. And this is not just a slam against DJI by any stretch of the imagination. I bought the camera. I still have the camera. That's the DJI Osmo Action, and I intend on keeping it, but with some caveats. So the first thing is, and there's already a separate video out there. If you go out to the GeezeRider channel, videos, you'll see why isn't Bluetooth included in action cameras. It's ridiculous. It might increase the cost of the product 5, maybe even 10 bucks. If you've been watching the channel, you know we're frugal, we're cheap, we're thrifty, we're penny pinchers, whatever you want to call it, and we'd still pay the money to have integrated Bluetooth audio. And no one will come forward and say definitively what the issue is. There's a lot of speculation and things, but no one will come out and say, this is why we don't have Bluetooth audio integrated in our action cameras. I got a cell phone that I can run for 3 days that has integrated Bluetooth audio that I can record to through my Bluetooth enabled helmet, almost crystal clear. It's ridiculous how good it is, but that's not 4K 30 frames, 4K 60 frames per second, but it's pretty darn good. And I have an old cell phone, so the issue of battery life, or then we have to make a Bluetooth camera, come on. You integrate Bluetooth into the action cameras, there will be Bluetooth microphones on Alibaba, Amazon, and eBay within a month, if it even takes that long. And there's already Bluetooth mics out there that could be used. Furthermore, when you use an add-on solution as a workaround to the lack of Bluetooth in an action camera, it usually renders the waterproofing moot. So if you're a scuba diver, for example, and you have comms in your scuba gear, you have to dub later and what have you. But, something more simplistic than that. If you're not a fair weather motorcycle rider or skier or bicyclist or water skier or whatever, and you want the audio to go with your video, the camera's already out there in the wet. You don't want to have to compromise the waterproofing ability in order to gain that feature. And, all this add-on stuff compromises that, or you have to dub the audio later. And that's not always the best scenario. And I also do have to give a shout out for anybody out there that's making decent motorcycle vlogs where you can be heard while you're riding. You have my appreciation. You have my admiration. And let me tell you, folks, give their videos a thumbs up, give their channel, subscribe, share it, because that is not easy to do. And it's not always a matter of how much you spend monetarily. A lot of times it's how much you spend with your own time and testing in order to get things right. And I can tell you from personal experience that it is not as easy as clipping a lavalier mic into the very confined space in front of your mouth in the helmet and calling it a day, because even with the windsock on a good lavalier like the one we use here in the GeezeRider World Headquarters studio, when you add wind noise, a studio mic behaves much differently than an outdoor mic. So that's one thing that obviously has me pretty riled up, could you tell? The other thing is the ridiculousness of some of the vendors. And Sena or Sena, however you want to pronounce the name, S-E-N-A, I am calling you out. They have not had their drivers digitally signed by Microsoft for over the past 7 years. And if you look on any user forums, or you look up YouTube videos, or you look at Microsoft forums, and you see all the people struggling to do firmware updates, and they can't do firmware updates, 99% of that is because Sena refuses to submit their drivers to Microsoft to be digitally signed. The cost is not that great. What they charge for their products is, and that digitally signed driver should be a minimum expectation. Why does this fire me up? If you've watched my videos long enough, you will have garnered that I worked in IT for the better part of 45 years. And I know a thing or two about this subject. All the workarounds that you have to invoke in order to apply an unsigned driver and have it work just for the duration of applying a firmware update with their device manager, as they call it, puts your machine at risk. Your laptop, your desktop, whatever, puts it at risk from a security standpoint. And for any of you that have had an issue or had a relative with an issue with identity theft or other, computer security issues, this is easily preventable on their part. They're putting their convenience and profitability above your safety, and is absolutely inexcusable. So, and if you look at these forums long enough, you'll see there are people that are just like, I'm not going to use the product. I'm just going to return it. If this is the hassle I have to go through every time I have to do a firmware upgrade, it's not worth the trouble. I'm not going to do it. And they're returning the product. So that Sena, you're driving your customers to other vendors that take the time and the trouble and the cost to do what is right by their consumers and have your drivers digitally signed. How much clearer can it be? This will be the last Sena product that I ever buy until you change that methodology, until you have your drivers digitally signed. It is ridiculous. It's inexcusable. It's unconscionable. It's unethical. Get the heck off your butt and have your drivers digitally signed by Microsoft. Enough of that. Then there's the other stuff where, again, the consumers are being made to be the beta testers. And I will name Akaso as guilty in this. And if you watch my review of the Akaso V50X, you know that the products just simply didn't work. It was a camera, it was a video camera, but it wasn't a video camera in the sense that it could record audio. And that was with its internal mic or with the Akaso specific mic that they insisted you had to use with that particular camera. So you buy their camera and you have to buy their specific lavalier mic. They won't guarantee anything works with any other mic. Guess what? Their mic didn't work either. And yeah, I got my money back, but we're talking about a lot of research, looking at a lot of reviews, which turned out to be lies, paid or otherwise false, that we went through, many man hours of research and everything. And guys, we got better things to do with our time. This is a motorcycle channel. I'd rather be out riding than chasing down these technical issues that are, and I don't mind doing the work for you. That's kind of the purpose of this channel, right? Is like, I'm doing the legwork so you don't have to. But some of this more ridiculous stuff where the manufacturer is like, well, 75% of them won't bother to go through the return process, so we still made a sale, without any care about that their brand name is sullied forever. That's ridiculous. And I can't tell you what to do, but I won't be buying another Acaso product. I threw out an olive branch to them. If you watch the V50X video, you'll know that I was very kind to them on balance and offered to, look again if they had a correction or an admission or a firmware update that fixed all these issues or something. And it was just crickets. So everything got returned to Amazon. The other thing is those that are complicit. And I have to start by saying I really like Cycle Gear. I admire the brick and mortar presence in this digital age. I know they're affiliated with Revzilla. There's still a little bit of separation of church and state between the two companies that I don't quite understand, even though they have basically the same parent company. And Revzilla has like a showroom, but you can't buy anything. Maybe they have a kiosk where you can go over and order it after you laid hands on something, but you can't buy something there. Cycle Gear, you can walk in and you can buy it, or they can order it and have it shipped to the store. I've bought a lot of things from Cycle Gear. I will continue to buy things from Cycle Gear. I like Cycle Gear, but they have the ability to put pressure on their vendors and partners. And that's the reason this helmet is here. This is a Cycle Gear built helmet with a DW05 Bluetooth communication system integrated into it. It is manufactured for them by Sena. When you go to Sena's website, or Cycle Gear's website, there's actually a separate download manager that's branded with Cycle Gear, but is the exact same download manager as Sena. And guess what it has in common with Sena? Unsigned digital drivers that have never been submitted to Microsoft. The complaints go back again, 2016 and beyond. They have the ability to put pressure on Sena since they're part of the retail channel, and either the issue, and I'm going to go out on a very big olive branch here that's stepping on and about to break under the weight of it. But I'm going to say, well, it's possible they didn't know, but their own forums beg to differ with the comments that I'm seeing on there. So Cycle Gear, you can go and you can leverage your weight against Sena or Sena, however you want to pronounce it, and say, hey, get these drivers digitally signed. And for anybody that wants to buy a Sena product through Cycle Gear, whether it is their house brand and the communication system just so happens to be made by Sena, or you're buying a Sena specific product, where I would leave it with you is, if that product does everything you need it to do the way you need it to do it right now and things are never going to change, go ahead and buy it. If you have the slightest inkling that you might need another feature or a correction for a deficit that they found via a firmware update, don't buy it. Just wait until they're shipping the next version with the firmware already in it, because you are going to beat your head against the wall getting that done. And I know I'm doubling back on this and just beating it, and the horse is down and we're still whipping it. But it's just that infuriating. It's that ridiculous because it's so simple to fix and there's no reason not to fix it. So what I'm going to leave you with is, if you're looking into anything and somebody stands to make a buck, either directly or indirectly, or you're not sure, I honestly am not trusting that review at this point. I have been on multiple store websites, multiple Amazon reviews and things like that. This just turned out to be blatantly false. And if you look at it and you go to other forums where people are talking about this stuff, like for example, the Sena stuff, where there was an Adventure Riders forum, which I would normally never hit in my travels, but because I was looking up stuff about one of Sena's or Sena's particular products, it actually came up, and they were lamenting the issues with the unsigned drivers going back, over 5 years and forward. So, yeah, it's getting circular here, and I'm going to try and wrap this up, but trust what firsthand experience you can find. And if you can't find that and everybody's still saying life is glorious, but you have your doubts, make sure whoever you're buying from has a very liberal return policy. And that is extremely important in the case of cameras or Bluetooth accessories or helmets, because a lot of this stuff can't be returned if you've ever worn it, if you've taken the tags off of it, or you open the box, especially with electronics. So make sure you read the return policy very, very thoroughly before you get into it. Amazon is usually pretty good about doing right by you. I was quite worried about the Acaso products, but they stood by me in that return promise. That return process went through to fulfillment and restitution. So I'm hoping everybody else has an experience as good as them, but Amazon isn't always the best place to buy something from as far as price is concerned, or availability. You know, sometimes they've got sellers, but the seller doesn't have it in stock for a couple of months, so you have to go elsewhere. So when you find that other alternate provider or that better price, make sure you've reviewed their return policies and you know what you're getting yourself into. All right, I'm going to go make myself a stiff glass of iced tea and calm down. And hopefully the next GeezeRider video you watch, the blood pressure is down quite a bit more. Ride safe. Please like the video if you think we've earned it. Namaste.